My name is Stacy Spalding, and I'm 35 years old. If you had asked me 2 months ago what my marriage looked like, I would have told you it was stable, maybe not perfect, but steady. In the way a quiet street looks safe until you notice the broken glass tucked under the curb. I didn't marry impulsively. I didn't marry recklessly. I married for partnership, or at least what I thought partnership meant. I'm a forensic accountant. My job is to uncover hidden money, fraudulent transfers, shell company shadows. I can pull together the financial anatomy of a corporation faster than most people can balance a checkbook, which makes what happened even more humiliating, because the one place I never thought I'd need to investigate was my own home. My husband Jeffrey is 32, charming, handsome in that breezy coastal lifestyle influencer way, the kind of man who treats ambition like an accessory, something you wear, photograph, and discard. For the first few years, I convinced myself his ventures just needed time: the boutique concierge startup, the wellness retreat, consulting, the high-frequency lifestyle optimization coaching that somehow required more Gucci than Google Sheets. If it swiped my card, he called it an investment. If it maxed out a card, he called it a temporary imbalance. If I expressed concern, he called me rigid the same way people call granite rigid, while conveniently ignoring the fact that it holds the entire house up. For the last 2 years, I had felt a shift. Not immediate, not explosive, just that slow cooling of metal left out in the rain too long. He stopped touching me first, stopped kissing me without an audience, stopped telling me anything that didn't sound like a pitch deck. But I stayed, because marriages aren't supposed to be thrown away over a bad season, because I thought loyalty could resurrect what love couldn't. Then came the night that burned all the illusions down. It was a Friday. Jeffrey said he was hosting a strategic alignment session with his best friend Marcus, a man who viewed commitment the way most people view parking tickets, avoidable and annoying. I usually kept my distance when Marcus was around. There's something about him that feels like an open window during a storm. There's always a draft, and you never know when something important might blow away. I told them I had a migraine and needed to lie down. It wasn't entirely a lie. My head did hurt, but it was from exhaustion, not light. I curled up on the recliner in the den, the room adjacent to the kitchen. Only a thin wall separated us, and the pocket door never fully latched, a flaw Jeffrey always promised to fix, but never got around to. At first, their voices were just background hum, clinking glasses, forced laughter. The type of loud, performative joy people produce when they're trying to impress each other. I drifted in and out of that half-sleep where the world feels muffled, where conversations turn into soft shapes instead of words. Then the tone changed. I couldn't see their faces, but I recognized the sound immediately. The low, conspiratorial whisper people use when they think they're safe enough to be cruel. "Man, she's such a drone," Jeffrey murmured. My heart didn't jump. My body didn't flinch. Years of training taught me that emotions make you sloppy. Instead, everything inside me quieted like my blood held its breath. "Seriously," Marcus said, "she tracks every dollar. Budget this, budget that. How do you live with that?" Jeffrey exhaled sharply, a laugh, but resentful. "She actually asked me to budget the trip to Cabo. Can you believe that Stacy Spalding, the queen of no?" Marcus let out a snort. Gross. I kept my breathing slow even. Then Jeffrey said the sentence that unstitched the seams of my entire life. "It's fine. I'll be out before she even notices. I'm draining the accounts tomorrow. Juliet said she can move everything into the wallet she set up. By Monday, we'll be in Miami locking in the Founders Circle buy-in. Stacy will wake up to a zero balance and divorce papers." Marcus whistled. "Cold. I like it." Jeffrey laughed quietly. "It's not cold. It's compensation. 6 years of dealing with her lectures about responsibility, please. This is my severance package. This is my severance package." The words sat in my chest like ice cubes. My husband, my partner, was plotting to rob me blind and run away with a self-styled investment guru, Juliet Maddox, a woman he described once as visionary and magnetic in ways that made my stomach pinch even then. But betrayal doesn't always feel fiery at first. Sometimes it's clinical. Sometimes it's the moment a surgeon realizes the tumor is malignant, not fixable, not negotiable, not something you pray over. It simply has to be cut out. They talked for 10 more minutes, laughing, planning, mocking me. I waited until I heard the sliding glass door open and the sound of a lighter flick. They'd gone to smoke on the patio. I opened my eyes. The house was silent except for my own heartbeat, steady like a metronome. I rose slowly barefoot, moving through the dark, like someone who had already walked these halls 1,000 times in her head. Because I had. Some marriages end dramatically. Screaming, crying, throwing plates. Mine ended with 3 monitors lighting up my face like the glow of a surgical room. In my office, I didn't turn on the big light. I didn't need it. The ambient glow was enough to remind me who I was. I started with the joint checking account. Balance drained. I left 15. Next savings. Drained. Left 5. Credit cards, every card Jeffrey had touched, I marked as compromised. Brokerage locked tighter than a bank vault. Authorization revoked. Then the vault, the family trust account. The one I had created years ago to protect assets from liability cases at work. The one Jeffrey forgot existed because I never spoke about it. I initiated the cascading transfer, a firewall so thick not even a court order could pierce it without my biometrics. Then, for the final act, I printed the transfer confirmation. On the back of it, in bold black marker, I wrote, "Check the balance." I placed the note beside the half-empty bottle of white wine they'd been drinking. My handwriting looked neat, steady, controlled. I packed a bag, passport, laptop, external drive, 2 suits, a toothbrush. That was it. I didn't take anything sentimental, nothing Jeffrey could accuse me of taking out of spite. I walked out the front door and pulled it shut behind me. I drove a block away and parked in the shadows where I had a clear view of the living room window. It took 20 minutes. The lights snapped on. A figure moved, then another, and then the scream. It was sharp enough to slice through the car window. A sound that didn't belong to a man or a woman, just a cornered animal, realizing the trap wasn't under its feet but around its throat. I watched as Jeffrey ran around the living room, his phone lighting up as he desperately tapped, swiped, refreshed, as though the banking app might magically restore everything he tried to steal. My phone buzzed. Jeffrey. Where is the money? The app is broken. Fix it. Pick up your phone. Stacy. I didn't reply. I just watched. And then I drove to a hotel downtown, one with marble floors and staff, who address you softly the way people talk to someone who's been through a war they can't see. The war had only just begun. The hotel room was quiet when I woke, too quiet for someone whose entire life had detonated less than 12 hours earlier. For a moment, I didn't move. I just stared at the ceiling and tried to feel something other than the cold, sharp calm that had settled into me like a new spine. Maybe I expected grief, maybe anger, but instead what I felt was clarity, pure, clinical, unavoidable clarity, the kind a surgeon gets before cutting out the thing trying to kill the patient. My phone lay face down on the nightstand. When I flipped it over, the screen lit up like a crime scene, dozens of missed calls, a wall of texts, notifications stacked in a frantic pulsing column, Jeffrey's name again and again. The messages were a slow decay in real time. Jeffrey. Hey, are you awake? Call me. Something's wrong with the accounts. Jeffrey. Why did you change the password? This better be a mistake. Jeffrey Stacy. Answer me. I know you saw the messages. Jeffrey, what did you do? All the money is gone. Jeffrey, you psycho. Pick up the phone. The progression was almost textbook confusion, irritation, rage, fear. If I hadn't lived with him for 6 years, I might have felt sorry for him. But empathy is a luxury reserved for the innocent, and Jeffrey had forfeited that the moment he whispered about his severance package. I placed the phone back down, got up, and opened the curtains. The morning sun spilled into the suite, golden and indifferent. The city was already alive with motion. People rushing to offices, coffee carts, opening buses, sighing into their stops. Life moved forward, unaware that mine had split cleanly in 2 overnight. I showered, dressed, ordered breakfast. I made myself eat every bite deliberate because I needed strength more than comfort today. By the time I arrived at Saul Bennett's office, I felt like I'd stepped into a different version of myself. One that didn't shrink, one that no longer smoothed over problems with grace and diplomacy, one that had finally stopped apologizing for holding things together alone. Saul ushered me into a conference room without a word, but his eyes sharpened when he saw my expression. You have the recording, he asked. I handed him the small device. He played it. Jeffrey's voice filled the room, smug, laughing, dripping arrogance and entitlement. Marcus chimed in with his grease-slick approval. And then, it's my severance package. Saul paused. The file leaned back and let out a slow exhale that almost sounded amused. Well, this simplifies everything. Good, I said, my voice steady. Because he thinks he's already won. Saul smiled the kind of smile that should make anyone on the opposing side run. We'll file immediately. The legal documents began printing in the next room. I could hear the steady churning of the printer like a drumbeat. While papers stacked, I checked the notifications on my phone again. Another alert motion detected in living room. I tapped into the feed. Jeffrey and Marcus were dragging my leather recliner across the hardwood floor. The same recliner Jeffrey once teased me for buying because it looked like something a CFO would use. Now he was trying to steal it. Unbelievable, I muttered. Saul walked over behind me. What now? Marcus is helping him load furniture into his SUV. Saul didn't even sigh. He simply took out his phone. Shall I? I shook my head. No, I've got it. I called the non-emergency police line. My voice remained calm, professional, stripped of emotion. This is Stacy Spaulding, homeowner at Willowcrest Lane. I am reporting attempted removal of marital assets in violation of a pending divorce filing. When the patrol car arrived, Jeffrey tried to bluff his way through it. Marcus attempted charm. Neither worked. Put the chair back, sir, the officer said flatly. Jeffrey dragged it back inside, muttering curses the entire way. Marcus slunk off to his car, avoiding the officer's gaze. Saul raised an eyebrow, and that, he said, is why we document everything. I felt a strange lightness, not joy exactly, but something close to relief. Proof, evidence, validation. For once, I wasn't the one cleaning up the mess. At 2:14 p.m., a new email slid into my inbox. From Juliet Maddox, subject regarding today's capital transfer. Ah, yes. The woman behind Jeffrey's metaverse empire, the self-proclaimed investment guru who relied on buzzword bingo to sell financial fantasies. She wrote with urgency, insisting Jeffrey's Founders Circle access required immediate payment of $150,000 or he would lose his position in the protocol. A protocol for what? Noise illusions, money alchemy. I forwarded the email to Saul. Then I typed my response. There will be no transfer. Jeffrey no longer has access to any funds. Failure to return his initial deposit will result in immediate escalation to the State Attorney General. I am a forensic accountant. I assure you, I will find everything. I hit send. The reply wasn't from Juliet. It was from Jeffrey. Jeffrey, you told her she blocked me. You ruined my chance. You're just jealous because she believed in me. Jealous of Juliet. If the situation weren't so tragic, it would be funny. I typed back. Me, I heard you. I heard the plan. I heard you mocking me. This isn't jealousy. This is survival. He didn't respond. Instead, he posted a dramatic, shaky video online, teary-eyed spinning a story about me being a manipulative spouse who drained his money to feed a gambling addiction. The comments weren't kind to him. Most people who knew us privately sent me screenshots with captions like, "Is he serious?" or "This is embarrassing for him." I didn't reply to Jeffrey publicly. I replied legally. 2 days later, we stood before a judge. Jeffrey looked like an imitation of himself, unshaven, wearing a wrinkled blazer over a shirt that didn't match. His lawyer was clearly inexperienced, and even worse, visibly nervous. Saul, meanwhile, stood calmly with a folder under his arm like he was about to deliver a keynote speech. "Your Honor," he began, the respondent, Mr. Hale, admitted on a recorded line to siphoning marital funds with the intent to abandon my client. He also transferred $45,000 to an unlicensed investment entity. Mrs. Spaulding safeguarded the remaining assets. Jeffrey's lawyer sputtered something about financial abuse. Saul didn't even blink. Mr. Hale's plan was to leave her with $0. We have the audio. We have the timestamps. We have the bank logs. We have the attempted furniture removal on video. The judge's patience evaporated visibly. "Mr. Hale," he said, "did you transfer $45,000 to a Ms. Juliet Maddox?" "It was an investment," Jeffrey snapped. "She said I'd triple it." And yet the judge replied the funds are gone. He ruled quickly. Jeffrey was to vacate the home within 30 days, a stipend of $300 per week. No more social media posts, no more interference. The gavel hit wood. Jeffrey's face fell apart. Outside, he chased after me in the parking lot, not yelling but pleading as if we were in some melodrama where begging rewrites history. "Stacy, please, don't do this. Marcus fed me lies. Juliet manipulated me. I was confused. We can fix this. Let's go home. I'll cook dinner." His hand touched my arm. I didn't pull away. I didn't push him. I just looked at him until he let go. "You weren't confused," I said quietly. "You were calculating." His expression collapsed. I walked to my car, opened the door, and paused just long enough to deliver the truth he'd run from for years. "You didn't lose me, Jeffrey. You threw me away." Then I left him standing there, small, desperate, and finally facing the reality he built with his own hands. The day after the hearing felt strangely hollow. Not peaceful, just quiet. The kind of quiet that follows an explosion when dust still floats in the air, but the blast itself is over. I checked out of the hotel that morning and moved into a temporary corporate apartment arranged through my firm. Neutral walls, neutral furniture, neutral everything, like living inside a clean sheet of paper. Blank, waiting. And yet the moment I set my suitcase down, my phone buzzed again. New email. Subject line. Final notice. Action required. I already knew who it was. Juliet Maddox, the self-anointed visionary, Jeffrey's guru, his gateway to abundance. Her new tone was icy professional. We are concerned by the abrupt cancellation of Jeffrey Hale's capital transfer. Please remit the $150,000 within 24 hours, or he will forfeit his founder's tier privileges. Privileges. The word actually made me laugh. Out loud. Alone in the apartment. The idea that Jeffrey thought he was buying privileges instead of lighting our money on fire in a dumpster labeled metaverse, immortality, was bleakly hilarious. But underneath that moment of dark humor was something else, a deeper frustration. Jeffrey didn't just betray me. He wasn't just unfaithful financially. He believed in fantasy over responsibility. He trusted a stranger, selling air more than he trusted his own wife. I forwarded the email to Saul. His reply came 5 minutes later. Saul, we will freeze anything she convinced him to deposit. Don't respond further. Let me handle her. Translation, Juliet wasn't just a scammer, she was now legally exposed. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't an email. It was an alert from the electrical company. Your request to remove your name from the service address has been completed. I hadn't cut Jeffrey's utilities. That would have been illegal. I simply removed myself from accounts that were in my name, something any adult is allowed to do. The electric company sent Jeffrey a notice, 48 hours, to establish a new account or service would be suspended. He ignored it. So the next morning, he woke up to a house with no internet and no working air conditioning. I know this because the moment the Wi-Fi died, the text started rolling in. Jeffrey, the Wi-Fi isn't working. I can't upload my apology video. Fix it. Jeffrey Stacy, the power bill is in your name. Turn it back on right now. Me, I don't live there. Jeffrey, they want a deposit. I don't have money because you stole it. Me, you transferred $45,000 to Juliet without telling me. Jeffrey, stop saying that. It was an investment. Then nothing for a few minutes. Then, Jeffrey, she blocked me. Juliet blocked me on everything. You were right. She took the money. Please, help me. That message stopped me. Not because it softened me, but because it revealed something I hadn't expected. Jeffrey still couldn't see the problem. He wasn't apologizing for what he'd done to me. He was begging for help because a scammer hurt him. Even now, he was the victim in his own mind. 2 days passed. I focused on work, cases, reports, numbers that obeyed logic, something my marriage had never done. But then came a call from Saul. Stacy, he said, you're going to want to hear this. He forwarded a link, a news alert. Local wealth guru arrested in Miami accused of operating multi-state crypto pyramid scheme. My heart actually skipped. Juliet Maddox, handcuffed, shoved into the back of a patrol car. The headline said it all. Saul's voice was steady, almost pleased. Your tip helped. The FBI was already watching her. Your documentation pushed the investigation over the line. So the money is gone. Gone, he confirmed. But her arrest works heavily in our favor. Jeffrey can't claim he was tricked by you. He was tricked by her. I leaned back in my chair, a strange mix of vindication and exhaustion pulling through me. What did Jeffrey say about the arrest, I asked. Saul paused. He called my office crying. I blinked, crying. Not the remorseful kind, Saul clarified. The I lost everything, and I'm mad it didn't go how I planned kind. Of course, classic Jeffrey. Even his grief had no room for accountability. That evening, another alert came from my home security system. Motion detected in guest bedroom. I opened the feed. Jeffrey was pacing wildly, phone in hand, gesturing at the walls like a man unraveling. Then he slammed the phone down on the dresser and kicked the closet door so hard it bounced back and clipped him in the shin. But what caught my eye wasn't the tantrum. It was the floor. Huge splashes of bleach stains across the carpet. White burned-out patches like chemical scars. He was destroying the house. Another alert this time from the hallway camera. Scratching sounds. When the motion trigger light flicked on, I saw what he was doing. Dragging a key across the hardwood floor. Carving words into it. The camera zoomed enough for clarity. Greedy. He had carved the word greedy into our floorboards. Not his name, not his accusation, not his crime. Mine. As if I had taken something from him. I watched him carve letter after letter, panting, sweating, irrational. Something inside me shifted. Then, not sadness, not anger, but a heavy, quiet acknowledgement. Jeffrey wasn't someone who made a bad decision. He was someone who would ruin anything he couldn't control, even if it meant burning everything around him just to warm his hands. Saul documented the vandalism immediately. Every stain, every carving, every broken piece of furniture. Put together, he said, this paints a powerful narrative for the judge, which is that he was capable of exactly what he planned to do, and worse. I thought the worst was behind us, but the next day proved me wrong. It was when Jeffrey asked, no, begged for something I never expected. He called me from an unknown number. When I answered, his voice was small. Stacy, I need help. He wasn't crying. He wasn't yelling. He sounded empty. I lost everything he said. The money. The investment. Marcus won't return my calls. Juliet's gone. Our house is falling apart. I can't pay the bills. I don't know where to go. I closed my eyes, listening to the sound of him unraveling. And for a moment, a tiny one, I felt a flicker of what I used to feel. Not love, not warmth, just recognition. He was still the man I married. Flawed, weak, terrified of responsibility, but human. Then the moment passed. Because I remembered something else. He hadn't just betrayed me. He planned to abandon me, rob me, erase me. So I asked him the one question he never expected. What did you think was going to happen, Jeffrey? Silence. I repeated it slower. What did you think would happen after you drained our accounts? After you flew to Miami? After you left me with nothing? His breath hitched. I thought I could fix it later, he said. Fix it later. Fix it later. As if marriage were a loan he could default on and renegotiate at his convenience. As if I were a resource, not a person. I let out a slow, steady breath. You didn't just burn the bridge, Jeffrey, I said. You tried to sell the ashes. And then I hung up. For the first time in years, there was no guilt, no second-guessing, no weight. Only truth. What collapsed wasn't my marriage. It was the fantasy he'd built on sand and expected me to hold up forever. The day after Jeffrey's hollow, desperate phone call, I woke with a strange feeling, like the air around me had changed density. Not lighter, not heavier, just still. The kind of stillness that comes when a storm is no longer approaching, but has already passed over, torn through everything, and moved on, leaving debris behind as proof it was ever there. I made coffee in the small apartment kitchen, the kind with cheap stainless steel counters that echo every cup you set down. My hands were steady, my heartbeat was normal, and for the first time in months, maybe years, I wasn't bracing for something. But the peace didn't last long. At 8:17 a.m., my phone buzzed with a security alert. Motion detected master bedroom. I clicked the feed, expecting another tantrum, another childish explosion. What I saw instead was worse. Jeffrey was sobbing. Not theatrically, not for an audience, not for manipulation. He was alone, crumpled on the floor beside the bed, shirt, twisted hair, wild, red-faced from crying. The kind of tears that don't serve any strategic purpose. He wasn't breaking anything. He wasn't screaming. He wasn't raging. He was collapsing. Still not once did it occur to me to comfort him, because empathy is not the same as reconciliation, and witnessing a man mourn the consequences of his own betrayal is not the same as wanting to undo them. He groaned into the carpet. What did I do? What did I do? And for a moment, a very brief one, I remembered the man who once kissed me in the grocery store aisle because I looked too serious choosing yogurt. The man who danced with me in our kitchen on our first anniversary. The man who used to bring me coffee in bed. But the man on that floor wasn't him. And the man I married had chosen greed over us long before I chose myself. At noon, Saul called. Stacy, he said, we need to schedule an inspection of the house. The destruction is legally relevant. When? Today. The thought of walking back into that house made my stomach twist. That place wasn't a home anymore. It was a crime scene with throw pillows. But I needed to see it, needed to document it, needed closure I could point to, touch, and walk away from. When we arrived, Jeffrey wasn't there. The house was eerily silent. Doors cracked open like frightened mouths. I stepped inside cautiously, as if the memories themselves might bite. Saul recorded as we walked. The bleach stains in the guest room looked worse in person, jagged white splotches across the carpet like chemical burns. The hardwood floor in the hallway bore the carved word, greedy, the cuts deep enough to catch dust. Furniture was overturned, drawers dumped, picture frames shattered. My once cozy living room now looked like a hotel room abandoned mid-eviction. "This is purposeful destruction," Saul said. "Documented, this will further reduce his share during division." "It wasn't about money," I murmured. "This was rage. Rage is still evidence." He was right, but that didn't mean it wasn't sad. Not sad for Jeffrey. Sad for the version of myself who once believed this house was a future, who decorated it, who planned dinners, who imagined a child running down this hallway one day, not stepping over gouged wood that spelled accusations. We moved upstairs. More stains. Broken lamp. A dresser shoved over. Then in the primary closet, something stranger. A pile of clothing Jeffrey's neatly folded. And on top, a small handwritten note. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I stared at it for a full 10 seconds. The handwriting was his. The sentiment wasn't. It wasn't an apology. It was a weak justification. A plea to the universe, not to me. An internal monologue he wished someone else would hear so he didn't have to take responsibility. I didn't touch the note. Saul photographed it. His voice was low. This could be interpreted as acknowledgement of intent. Intent. Every part of this nightmare had been intent. The theft, the plan, the lies, the abandonment. Jeffrey wasn't sorry, he was scared. And scared men make messes that honest women are expected to clean. But not anymore. That evening after the inspection, I went back to the apartment and made myself tea. Not because I needed comfort, but because I needed something ordinary. Something that reminded me I was still tethered to the real world and not just the chaos Jeffrey had detonated. I had just sat down when my phone lit up with a new number. Not Jeffrey's, not Saul's, unknown. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something told me to answer. "Hello?" A shaky breath. Then, "Stacy, it's me." "Jeffrey." But his voice, God, it wasn't a voice I recognized. Breathless, small, afraid in a way that didn't feel manipulative this time. More like a man standing in the ruins he built and suddenly realizing he had no tools to rebuild anything. "What do you want?" I asked, not unkindly, not warmly, just neutrally. I'm leaving the house," he said. "I can't stay there." "Good," I said. "You have 30 days. The judge was generous." That's not why he whispered. Silence stretched between us. Then he said it. "The house feels haunted." I blinked. Haunted. "Not by ghosts," he said quickly. "By everything I did. I walk into rooms and all I can see is what I broke. What I said. What I planned. What I lost." "I see," I said. He breathed out a shaky laugh. "You sound like you don't care." "I don't," I replied. The silence on the line wasn't angry. It wasn't wounded. It was resigned. "I don't blame you," he said quietly. I didn't answer. Because what was there to say? It wasn't my job to absolve him. It wasn't my responsibility to give him peace. He had carved his mistakes into wood, spilled them into carpets, and now wanted me to clean the stains. But that era of my life was over. He inhaled shakily. "I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry." A real apology. Too late, but real. For a moment, I let the words settle, not to forgive him, just to mark the end of something. "Thank you for saying it," I finally said. I heard him nod as if I could see it. Then, "Goodbye, Stacy." I didn't say goodbye back. The line went dead, and with it, the last lingering thread that tied me to him. As I sat there, the apartment finally felt different. Not empty, just mine. A space with no lies, no tension, no whispers behind walls, no men plotting to drain my life out from under me. Just me and the slow, steady quiet of a life I was rebuilding piece by piece. Not from ruins, but from truth. The morning of the final divorce signing was overcast, the kind of heavy sky that looked like it was deciding whether to rain or simply hang there bloated and indecisive. I took it as a fitting metaphor for what was about to happen. The storm of the marriage had already passed. Today was just the cleanup. I arrived at Saul's office early. The lobby smelled like polished wood and expensive cologne, the kind that lingers in a room long after the man who wore it is gone. I sat quietly, my hands folded in my lap, listening to the distant click of Saul's paralegal typing in the next room. Nothing about this felt dramatic. No trembling, no dread. Just a sense of finality, so steady it almost felt like peace. When Saul finally stepped into the lobby, he carried a slim folder. "He's here," he said. Of course he was. Jeffrey wouldn't miss the final moment, not because he wanted closure, but because part of him still believed he could talk his way into a different ending, as if words could rewrite evidence, intention, financial records, and betrayal. We entered the conference room. Jeffrey sat on one side of the glass table, shoulders hunched, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. not physically, emotionally, deflated, shrunken, like someone who had been living inside a balloon made of ego and illusion, and life had finally popped it. He didn't look up when I sat down. Saul placed the documents between us. The decree outlines the final division of property, the sale of the marital home, and the adjusted settlement reflecting Mr. Hale's dissipation of marital funds. Dissipation. Such a clean word for such a catastrophic mess. Jeffrey's lawyer, who always looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, slid the pen toward him. "You can sign," he said quietly. Jeffrey's hand shook a little as he picked up the pen. His eyes flicked to mine just once, quick and pleading, before dropping again. He didn't speak. Maybe he finally understood that nothing he could say would change anything. He signed. Then Saul handed the folder to me. I didn't hesitate. I didn't linger on the place where my previous signature had once meant something sacred. I signed with the same steady hand I used for everything that required certainty. And just like that, 6 years of marriage ended. A pen stroke, black ink, a name I had once taken pride in sharing now sitting across from me like a stranger's. When it was over, Jeffrey stood slowly as if his body needed time to remember how movement worked. He looked older somehow, not in age, but in the way people look when life has finally stripped away the last excuses. He approached me, careful, hesitant, like I was a glass door he wasn't sure he was allowed to touch. "Stacy," he said softly. "Wait." I didn't, but I paused. He swallowed the words, catching before they came out. "I know sorry doesn't fix anything. I know that. But I need you to know, I didn't think I'd lose everything." I stared at him, waiting. He took another breath. I thought I could take the money, get ahead, build something, and then give it back, before you noticed. "That wasn't you getting ahead," I said. "That was you abandoning me." His face tightened. "I wasn't going to leave you with nothing forever. You were going to leave me with nothing long enough." Silence. He looked down at his hands. Juliet, told me it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, that I deserved more, that you were suffocating my potential. There it was, the truth beneath all the lies. "She fed your ego," I said, "and you let her." His eyes drifted to the table. He didn't argue. I took a breath, slow, deliberate grounding. "You didn't lose me because Juliet manipulated you. You lost me because you chose a fantasy over our reality." His eyes lifted, wet, raw, unguarded. "You're going to be lonely," he whispered. "All that money, all that independence, it doesn't hug you back." For a moment, the room held still as if waiting for my response. Maybe he expected guilt, maybe pity, maybe that old version of me, the one who made excuses for him, would resurface just long enough to cradle his remorse. But that woman was gone. I slipped my bag over my shoulder and met his gaze with a calm I had earned through fire. "I'd rather be alone in an honest life," I said, "than trapped in a lie with someone who planned my destruction. And Jeffrey, my money never lied to me." The words hit him harder than yelling ever could. Something inside him crumpled, but he didn't chase after me, didn't reach for my arm, didn't beg. He just accepted. We were finally done. That afternoon, I drove straight to the house, not to walk inside, but to meet the movers and finalize the inventory list. When the truck pulled away carrying what remained of the life Jeffrey had spent months smashing, I stood in the driveway and looked at the house one last time. The windows were dark. The door was locked. The place felt hollow, like a skeleton of a structure that had once held dreams. I didn't feel sadness, just relief. I slid the keys into the envelope for the realtor and whispered to no one. "Goodbye." My new condo was a high-rise downtown, modern, quiet, clean lines, a view of the city that shimmered at night like a promise. I set down my suitcase, walked to my new office, and hung a framed piece of paper on the wall. Check the balance. The note I had left on the wine bottle. The moment everything changed, my reminder. Not of revenge, not of pain, but of what I overcame, of who I became. It wasn't a trophy, it was a compass. It pointed to one thing. Never again mistake someone's potential for their character. Never again love someone so blindly that you ignore the map of warning signs at your feet. Never again stay when someone has already walked away in their heart. I poured myself a glass of water, simple grounding, and stood at the window as the sun dropped behind the skyline. Some people think endings are loud, but I learned something else. Real endings are